All right, good morning, everyone. So sorry for the slight delay as we were getting started this morning. We are joined by James over in Madagascar. And of course, as those of you who've been there know, connectivity can be a challenge. So we're going to do the best we can this morning. We're all excited to learn from James' talk. We're highlighting all this week about Madagascar and our student programs. And James has some really fantastic recent updates from the ground in Madagascar. I'll be here at the Duke Lemur Center hosting. So if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. And if we have any more connectivity issues, thank you so much for bearing with us. We will do the best we can this morning. So I will let James take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited at this opportunity to be able to share a little bit with you from Madagascar. I'm hoping that pictures and everything will show up. Megan, can you just give me a shout when you can see my title slide?
All right, I'll let you know. There it is. We can see it now.
So as you may know, the theme for this year's Mission Madagascar, our big DLC fundraiser for our work in Madagascar, is about how we are engaging, empowering, and enabling students to do research, animal husbandry, and development, not only with the colony of lemurs that's based in Durham at DLC, but also in Madagascar. And so today I have the great pleasure to talk to you a little bit more about how we include and engage students from Duke and other universities around the US, as well as Madagascar, to give them a space where they can have these experiences and these opportunities to not only participate in research, but also to lead their own research as well as development projects. I'm Herrera, the program coordinator for the DLC-SAVA conservation program. And I'm going to take you on a quick trip to the northeast, to which is called the SAVA region of Madagascar. It's a highly rural area, as is most of Madagascar. About 80% of the people living in Madagascar live in the rural countryside. They are using subsistence farming to meet their daily needs, and they also have a couple of other coping mechanisms for getting through those tough times when there's not enough harvest. But this, I'm just going to highlight a project that we've been conducting over the last 2 or 3 months with students from Duke University, as well as McAllister and University of California, Davis, to engage the students both from US and from Madagascar in a diversity of projects that are kind of multidisciplinary. So focusing on the interface between the natural and human systems. We had 4 students from abroad who came and joined their colleagues in Madagascar, and they really had an opportunity for peer-to-peer exchange with their close colleagues in universities from Madagascar, so including in the capital and the regional university, which is called Cursa. And it required a lot of trekking around the SAVA region. So they first flew into the capital, then they flew into the main cities of Sambava. We then traveled down to Antala to meet with our Cursa team, and then out to Andapa, which is some of the worst roads I've ever been on. It was a 6-hour or 7-hour drive to get out to our field site. We had to do it in two parts the first trip. But when we came, we were received with a really welcoming community. We held town hall style meetings to discuss with the communities why we were coming, the research we were doing, and to get their feedback and to ask their permission to be able to conduct the project. And it was an opportunity for people to ask the questions, to get clarification about our goals, and for us to also ask questions with a bigger group. But we had our kind of agenda in mind already. We split into 2 teams. One is the forest ecology sub-team, and this is the group of their assistants who are helping to trek all their equipment, the 4-hour hike out to the forest. And we also had a social science sub-team that I'll tell you about in just a few minutes. So this is where The forest ecology team lived for almost 3 months in a tent and campsite like this. It was actually pretty grueling at times. There was about 3 weeks of nonstop rain, which turned the entire camp and all the trails into mudslides. But the team really got through it, and it was worth it because we had up close and personal experiences with diverse lemurs. In fact, 9 different species were observed over 177 encounters of lemurs on the trails during the day and at night. And the silky shafaka featured here is a critically endangered species that's only found in the Sava region. And so to be able to find actually 3 distinct social groups just in the vicinity of our trail system was quite encouraging for the species, because it means there may actually be healthy populations here. We also had some amazing encounters at night. This little guy featured here is a hairy-eared dwarf lemur. They're also quite rare throughout most of their range. In fact, for a long time, they were thought to be extinct, only known from museum specimens. But then they started popping up in some really remote forests. And here, where we've been doing our research, a site so that we would know individuals. So Camille DeSisto is a PhD student from Duke University. She's doing her research on seed dispersal by lemurs. Lemurs eat fruits and swallow many of the seeds whole. They defecate, they spread those seeds, and they're really one of the most important seed dispersers in Madagascar. And here she and her research assistant Fenner Telecity are going over their tree nursery where they planted the seeds that they acquired from the lemur feces. And measurements and marking them to understand more about their population. Here, our assistant Charles is showing off one of the mouse lemurs they captured. We actually caught 14 individuals of the mouse lemur and 4 individuals of the hairy-eared dwarf lemur. We're really, really excited about that. As far as we know, it's the first research team to actually capture the hairy-eared dwarf lemur in traps. Previously, the few studies that were done on them, they actually found the animals sleeping in their tree holes, and they were able to pluck them out of their tree holes. But in our study, we used these live traps, and we actually had some great success. But we also came up against a lot of challenges, and sometimes these were a bit depressing to see. Large areas of the rainforest within the protected area that were deforested. So trees cut down. Here in this case, it's still pretty early stage. The next step will be to burn all this material, and it was a pretty large chunk of forest. And this is just one example out of about 20 that we found just in the vicinity of our campsite and trail system. So, people in the area are living a traditional lifestyle. They need forest resources for clearing new land for farming or wood for building their homes. And so this is a big element of our research and development, is to understand how people use the forest, why they have to go to the forest for natural resources and for land, and what kind of sustainable alternatives we might be able to find. People also hunt lemurs for meat. So this is an example of a snare trap. You can see these trees bent here are tied with a noose along these log bridges. So when the lemurs cross on that log bridge, they get hooked in the snare. And it's an important source of protein and iron for communities where they don't really have a whole lot of domesticated animals. But again, we're trying to work with communities to develop training strategies and workshops that can improve people's chicken and fish farming, such that they have sustainable alternatives to switch from hunting wildlife. And we're learning all these different causes of the deforestation and pressure on the forest through social sciences. So I mentioned there were 2 teams here. Maggie is one of the Duke students from the Sanford School of Public Policy, working with her colleague and peer from the regional university, Kanti. And they conducted interviews with diverse stakeholders, including vanilla farmers, because vanilla is one of the biggest crops in the Sava region. Most of the world's high quality vanilla comes from Sava. And so she was trying to understand more about how agriculture and especially vanilla farming play into local livelihoods. She worked with a number of different colleagues at the regional university doing focus groups and key informant interviews. And I think she got over 50 interviews that she's now going through, translating and starting to analyze and interpret. We also collaborated with a master's student, Bethany Old from Duke's Sanford School of Public Policy as well. She's more focused on women's nutritional health and policy related to nutritional health care infrastructure, doing focus groups with women and children to understand more about their knowledge about high quality diets, their access to high quality food, and what we can do to improve their access. Here, Jane is a student from McAllister, and she was collaborating with Ardeel on the left, who's a teacher at Cursa and also a PhD student. And they're trying to understand more about agricultural productivity, crop rotation, and things like that, as well as socioeconomics, land size, demographics, education. Here in the middle, we have Nestorine. She's a teacher and PhD student as well. And her assistant Angel, really focused on women and children's nutritional health. So here, just giving an example of measuring height and weight for children under 5 to quantify the prevalence of stunting and wasting. They also measure blood hemoglobin levels using a non-invasive, finger sensor that can tell us about the anemic status of mothers and children. It's very effective in the field. And we're learning all about their farming practices and the way they use natural resources. And one of the things we see is just how important market vegetable farming is, not only for local nutritional health, but also for income. A lot of people either have gardens or want to be able to have gardens where they grow these market vegetables so that they can have, the food they need daily as well as some extra to sell. So that's where the DLC development projects and conservation activism come in, because we partner with Cursa, the regional university, to train graduates from the university in agroecology and climate smart agriculture. And those postgraduates then become extension agents who go into the communities and hold these workshops to teach farmers about how to amend their soils with locally available organic material that can bring these soils back to life. A lot of the soils are no longer productive. They're rather low quality. We have a number of different measures that we use for soil quality that we can show. Basic elements like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium are very low. There's little carbon in the soil. So we've got to kickstart the soil food chain by adding organics back into the system. We also teach about companion planting and intercropping so they can grow diverse crops in a small space and share seeds. These are open source seeds, usually just available in the market. So it's not, difficult in terms of accessing these inputs. And we're really seeing some fantastic results, which I can talk about more in a subsequent presentation. But here I really want to focus on how we strive to empower students to be the future leaders of these research and conservation efforts. So I just want to go back and tell you a little bit more about the teams of students that worked on this project. So we had Camille DeSisto, PhD student at Duke's Nicholas School of the Environment, Edgar Rabeval, who's a PhD student here in Madagascar, Fenu Tulesi, also a master's candidate here in Madagascar, and their assistants, all postgraduates, Eric, Jatonnet, Jeremy has a master's degree from the University of Antananarivo, and now he wants to pursue his PhD as part of this work. And then in the social science team, it was really led by Ardeel and Nestorine, teachers and PhD students at Cursa, and they oversaw and supervised and led their own research and development projects along with Maggie from the Sanford School at Duke, Jane from McAllister, Bethany also from Duke, and a whole squad of Malagasy assistants working with them. So Candidier, Espirio, Joel, Eliatine, Olina, Angel, it's just too many students to fit into one slide, but these were some of the, the kind of real strong members of the team that we wouldn't be able to do any of this without them. And it was a really amazing experience. By the end, we really felt more like friends and family than coworkers. We lived together throughout these 3 months, had a lot of different experiences, and we've made these lasting connections that are going to continue in the long term. So now, just because the field work is over doesn't mean our collaboration is over. We still have weekly meetings between our Duke and Cursa colleagues. We are continuing to push these projects forward. The Cursa team will continue to do more field work because they're still here and they're ambitious and motivated to collect a lot more data, continue doing these development projects. And so it's really rewarding to be able to continue this collaboration outside of just the field work. Going back in time, back to 2011, when the DLC-SAVA conservation project first started, these are some of the numbers that we've been keeping track of student engagement and empowerment. Over 140 Malagasy students have participated in workshops and field schools, learning about diverse topics, including genetics, agroecology, field ecology, biology, and herpetology, all different fields. 97 students that were based in the US have conducted independent projects or participated in our projects, as well as 38 Malagasy students who have either done internships, assistantships, or done their advanced degrees through the work that we promote. So, all of our work is funded by donations and grants, and we're extremely grateful to all of our supporters and our funding agencies that make this work possible. We couldn't have done any of this without you all. And with that, I will just quit there. I'll say thank you all for listening. Hopefully my connection wasn't too terrible, and maybe there's even a little time for questions.
Thank you so much. So the connection was not bad at all. We got through everything. We got to see everything, which if you were with James and I on the test calls earlier, that's a bit of a miracle. So pretty excited about that. So I think my first question is, you showed kind of percentages where we have, the section of Malagasy students, we have the section of US-based students, and then you showed some collaboration with the teams. Can you talk more about, kind of mixing those two worlds, those students from different literal sides of the world, and kind of the importance of that and kind of where you see moving forward with the project?
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's a really great opportunity for exchange. The students from the US often have a lot of advanced skills. So for example, in really hardcore methodologies, new advanced techniques for collecting data, or really great skills for analyzing data, a lot of background theory. But they're pretty new when it comes to getting out there, getting your feet dirty in the field, and learning, for example, the 50, 60 species of trees that you might encounter in just a small 20 by 50 meter botanical plot. So the Malagasy team really has this expertise in the field, this knowledge of the ecosystem from their years and years of experience there. They also understand the cultural, social context much better than we ever could, because it's their lived experience. And so by having these teams come together and create this opportunity for peer-to-peer exchange, everyone's sharing knowledge, co-creating the projects and the goals. And so it's really invaluable. But I do want to really boost the participation of the Malagasy students. We're never satisfied, and we want to support and sponsor more Malagasy students to do their own independent research with grants and scholarships that can earn them opportunities to get advanced degrees, helping them to see their work through from conceiving of the idea, collecting the data, analyzing, writing up and publishing, even getting their own grant money. So it's these are all ways that our US-based colleagues can help moving forward with researchers in Madagascar.
Yeah, because I think what a lot of folks maybe won't realize is that there's been a lot of inclusion of Malagasy researchers, collaborators in projects, but they in the past have been primarily led by the US scientists, right? Because they're the ones who came with the funding. So that's kind of what you're trying to flip the script on a little bit.
Yeah, well put. Especially because, so for example, Edgar and Talesi, Eric, and folks that I mentioned on the forest ecology team, as well as Candidier and Olina on the social science team, they've been doing this research since 2020 during the pandemic, when obviously, folks like me were stuck, excuse me, back in the US and couldn't get to Madagascar. And so we were really joining their team as opposed to the other way around. And that was really enriching. Edgar is a rock star. All the people in the villages know him, and they welcomed us to the village because they trusted that Edgar wouldn't, bring just anybody out to these villages. So they were like ambassadors as well as teachers, and we really learned so much from our collaboration with the Cursa team and University of Antananarivo team.
And that is a perfect segue into the next question, which is, can you talk a little more about the typical reception, maybe in your past work in Madagascar and in your current work in Madagascar, and the importance of kind of that connection with the villages and the people who live there, and kind of those big, we saw like kind of a town hall almost that you guys were hosting?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It can be tricky, especially in sites like where we did our research. You know, it's not like they're not at all uncontacted people. They have a lot of access to Western culture and to bigger cities. But many folks told us we were the first foreigners they'd ever seen in their village. So we were also met with a lot of skepticism, a lot of concern, sometimes just seeing us as real oddities. But one of the things that people worry about is, these foreigners coming in and stealing land and making parks and taking their land away, and they lose land rights. So one of the big hurdles was just really communicating and working with the local forestry management association to make it clear what our goals were. We're not here to steal land. Even if you see us going around with a GPS measuring land size, we're mapping out, the high quality habitats for lemurs and for your crops. And so it took, the better part of the first month or two of really just being in the community and discussing, in depth with everybody who would listen, what we were trying to do. And by the end, it was really quite amazing. We held another town hall meeting to kind of say thank you and share our results. And the president of the village and some of the local forestry management folks, and even people who hadn't participated in any of our programming, all took turns to say how their mind had changed about these foreigners coming to their village. They were no longer worried that we were coming to steal land. They saw that we were coming with benefits and development projects that they could gain real, key skills, whether it be the forest research or the farming techniques. So it did take time. But again, I've had other experiences too, where it was a little bit more like, I'm coming because I want to do some research in the forest. You've got some big forest here and lemurs out there. So, I'll hire a couple of people and we'll go out there. This was really different in this last project, in that we were engaging with the community so strongly, and we couldn't have done or achieved everything that we did without their participation.
Wonderful. So I know we have a bit of a delay even between me and our audience, so I'm going to give them a little bit more time to see if we have any questions to follow up with. But in the meantime, to give that time, do you maybe want to share maybe one of your favorite experiences from your latest time in Madagascar?
Favorite experience. I'll try to make it quick because it was, I don't know, like a 24-hour endeavor. But I had to split my own time between the forest ecology team and the social science sub team, and I loved what they were doing, in both sides, and I would go back and forth and tell the other team what the others were doing and experiencing, and I felt like it was unfortunate that we couldn't have more exchanges between the two sub teams. But then in the final days, as I was with the forest ecology team and we packed up camp, and it was really emotional to be leaving that forest that we were calling home to come down to the village. And, it was this 4-hour hike that was really exhausting. We get to the village and we're dead tired. But then we see the social science team, and they are all just full of energy, so excited to see us, and we were so excited to see them. And it was almost like, these very happy waves colliding with everyone just exploding with stories and smiles. And it was like, those 4 hours on the grueling trail, you barely remembered any of the hardships. You just wanted to share all your experiences. And then we had, big feasts together as like a going away party. Big feast with all our teams together, 40 plus members of our team all in one room. And then we, played music and danced and did traditional dances together. And it was just an amazing experience that really, brought all those emotions together.
And that did actually work. We got a wonderful story out of you, and we did get a question from Walter about the students you've been working with. Are any of them studying lemur social behaviors at all, hierarchies, cooperation, or aggression? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about some of the research, maybe more directly on lemurs from some students?
Yeah, thank you. I'd be happy to. Specifically regarding projects of behavior, we have he's a postgraduate at Cursa. He's got his master's degree. He's a teacher at Cursa, but he wants to do his PhD on territoriality in the red-bellied lemurs. I believe we used to have red-bellied lemurs at DLC, but maybe not anymore. But they're actually quite common at this site where we're working, and they've noticed a lot of variation in the group size. Traditionally, this species is living in monogamous pairs, one male, one female, and their offspring. But we've been seeing a variation in those groups that is probably very interesting says something about the flexibility in their behavior. And what he really wants to do is compare their territoriality in different habitat qualities. So in the habitats that are a little bit more used by people, where maybe some of the big fruiting trees have been logged and there's not as much resources, are they more aggressively defending their patches from other groups than in areas with higher quality and maybe less need for that competition? And what's going on in these social groups that are all mixed genders, not seeing the strictly male female pairs. Those are interesting questions that we want to get more into. But it's, this is one of those things where we need to engage these students and create the opportunities for them to answer their own questions like these, because, unfortunately, tuition and travel to the universities and things like that are prohibitive, so that they often don't have the opportunity to go and get a PhD when they're really motivated to do so. The other problem at this site is that these animals are all have never really been studied before, so they're not habituated at all. And I can tell you from my experience, we tried every group we saw, we tried to follow them as long as we could. Sometimes that was no more than 10 minutes because the animals would just beeline straight across the valley through the treetops, and we're, slipping and sliding down the hills and falling into the valley and then climbing back up the other, and then they're just gone. So it's challenging, but it's a lot of fun. That student actually got really excited at the idea. There's new technologies out there of collars that have GPS units in them, so you don't actually have to kill yourself up and down the mountain. The GPS is pinging data for you all the time. You just have to add the other behavioral data. Anyway, I can go on and on. There's a couple of different projects like that, but that's just one example.
What a fantastic example, though, and a great reminder that if resources are given, there are many capable people on the ground in Madagascar, many Malagasy people who have excellent questions and know what to ask. They just need the ways to study how to get the information and how to get it all. So I'm going to vamp for a few more minutes with you, James, just to make sure we don't have any more follow-up questions, and give it a little bit longer. And I know we have additional interest from some of the folks on here. And I know that from personal experience, you're always open to conversations. You and Charlie are kind of always open via email. So if anyone has any further questions after this, feel free to get in touch with us. I'll go ahead and put the general email for kind of the Lemur Center education team in here in the chat. That way folks can just reach out to us and we can always connect any further questions or any further discussions that you want to have about our work.
That would be great. I'd be happy to answer more questions and also, learn more from the perspectives of folks tuning in.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I think that is all the questions we have for you this morning, and I think we have asked as much as we can of your internet connection. It's held out for as long as it could. So thank you so much, James. It was great to hear from you. Great to learn about everything that you and the team have been up to, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Great. Thank you for having us. It was great to have this opportunity. So happy the internet has worked out. And yeah, I look forward to hearing more about how the gala goes in the US. Take care, everybody.